Hi. So, welcome to our puppy and dog success panel. We hope that you learn a lot in a really short period of time, and we're going to get this started right away. I'm Carrie Spivey. I'm with the Animal Birth Control Clinic. I'm the executive director. I've been there about 18 years. No formal medical training, but I've been around it long enough to give some basics. And yeah, Lisa, you want to go ahead? Oh, you're on mute. There you go.
First offense of the day that I am muted. Hi, I'm Lisa Corcoran. I am a certified dog trainer and I'm the owner of the Confident Hound here in Waco, Texas.
And I am Kim Jukes. I'm the owner of People and Pups, also a certified dog trainer. Been doing this for officially 8 years.
And I am Kayla Scott, owner and groomer of the Groomery Waco and a professional grooming credentialed groomer through the AKC.
Yeah.
All right.
So we're going to start out with life before the new dog or puppy, what basic supplies you might need for before adding your pet to your family. And we're going to start with food and bowls. We're going to talk about the amount, the timing of feeding, the type of feed, and transitioning from one food to another. So from the vet tech field or veterinary field, we prefer that there be kibble over can unless your veterinarian suggests something different. Check the ingredients carefully. Ideally, in most situations for most dogs, you can start with a meat first focus. It doesn't have to be chicken, by the way, but just quality ingredients and on the timing for an adult dog, typically you're going to have either free feed for that dog or a couple of times a day. Depends on the dog and the situation, and whatever your medical team suggests. For puppies, you really need to be feeding 3 to 5 times a day. Smaller amounts for smaller stomachs and faster metabolisms. Um, and then it's really a good idea wherever your puppy or dog came from to ask for a small amount of the food that their dog was eating before and transition that over a few days to a week into the new food just so that there's less gastro interruption. Is there anything else anybody would add into that?
So the transition period is that you start with mixing more of
Mixing.
the old stuff with less of the new stuff and gradually get, is that right, Gary?
Yes, thank you for clarifying that. I appreciate that, Kim.
Sounds good.
I don't have anything to add other than that.
All right. Shall we talk about dog gear now?
Yeah.
Okay, so when I think of dog gear, I'm talking about anything like collars, harnesses, leashes. I like to think of it as kind of just like your dog's clothing, their wallet. And so with these types of items, it's really that's the best place to start. A lot of people get bogged down in like all the things that you can buy for a new dog coming in, and trust me, the pet industry knows it and they make a lot of money off of that. So just start with the basics. You can always go out and buy something or have it shipped to you within a couple of days. The best place to start is with a collar, a harness, and 1 or 2 types of leashes. For collars, that's the one that I feel like it's kind of like your dog's wallet. It's really meant to hold their ID and it should be comfortable to carry around on their body. Really, with all of these pieces, that they should be both safe for the dog and comfortable. Like a harness, I think of kind of like a car seat or a seat belt. It should really be fitted to their body properly. It should be comfortable, breathable material. And actually, we are looking for a very specific shape with harnesses. They should be what's known as a Y shape, or it kind of looks like an hourglass. This shape is what's going to allow your dog's shoulders to move freely, and it's going to really make sure that when they're walking, they feel good. And if your dog doesn't feel great, they're not going to do great. And when it comes to a leash, I recommend having a sort of standard length leash, something that's 6 to 8 feet. And I also really enjoy having what's known as a long line. And that's generally going to be anything that is like 15 feet and longer. I'll talk a little bit more later when we discuss enrichment about why this is useful. But one important thing I want you to know about leashes is that it's not really a matter of strength when it comes to how bulky the leash is. It's really more about what it's made out of. So you want to look for things that are made out of like leather, or in this case, this is made out of a material called biothane. And in fact, a leash that is too wide or too bulky is actually more likely to slip out of your hand. And one last point on gear, I just want you to know that gear can't really train your dog. It's kind of like having cleats and shin guards. That's not going to actually teach you how to play soccer. Only practicing of the skills can do that. So beware of anything that advertises itself as a training solution when it's really just an object. If you're looking for really specific recommendations on any of these types of things, there will be a resource included in the resource sheet that will be sent out that links to my favorite supplies list, and you can get some ideas from there. Anything to add for gear from anyone else? No?
Nope.
Okay. So let's shift to like a slightly different type of supplies that you might want to get before your dog or your puppy comes home. And that's going to be things in the category of what we call enrichment. Now, enrichment is kind of buzzword, so let's clear this up a little bit. Enrichment is really just the way that you meet your dog's needs. We all know what they need, right? They need food, they need shelter, sleep, exercise. But how you go about that is really going to depend on your individual dog. And so enrichment is about taking the way that we meet their needs and kind of customizing it to what your dog's unique hobbies are and just filling their cup, which is going to be different from dog to dog. And so we just want to be proactive about giving them opportunities to be a dog because they are, and that's normal. That's why we love them. And when we give them those opportunities, they're less likely to do it in other areas of our life that we don't love so much. So for example, if your dog or your puppy very likely wants to chew on everything, that's a very normal dog behavior. We need to give them a way to do that that doesn't tear up everything that we own. And so that's what we mean by enrichment. So a great example of that would be sort of like a frozen carrot for a puppy, or a Kong toy for an older dog. All of these things are ways to sort of hand the toddler crayons and paper ahead of time so that they don't find markers and color on the wall instead. It doesn't need to be a time-consuming or an expensive type of activity. One of my favorite things that I do is just grab a bunch of treats and dump them in my dog's toy bin, and it's like he's bobbing for apples. Doesn't take a lot of time. On my end, he enjoys it and he comes out of it with a craving to do something really fulfilled. So that's what we're looking for. And it's not always necessarily about food activities or mental stimulation either. Often things just like having some cuddle time. If you have a dog that's a Velcro dog, maybe make sure you're setting aside an opportunity each day to really fill that need. Or if you have a dog that gets stressed out a lot, setting aside time each day to make sure that they can decompress. So again, it's just about how we go about meeting our dog's needs based on what is most important for their well-being. Anything to add?
I love the frozen carrot thing.
I got that tip from a
I always
veterinarian,
forget about that.
actually.
I would
Well,
add that enrichment is also just a great way to get your dog started before doing something difficult.
Yeah, totally. I actually
yeah,
often
and I
recommend.
love, of course.
Go ahead, Kim.
ahead. No, you go ahead.
I was just gonna add on to what Kayla said, how often if a dog is about to, you're gonna have guests over or they have to go to the vet or the groomer or something like that, enrichment can be a way to kind of, ease them into that experience, take off the edge off any energy or stress they're feeling. And so, yeah, it can be a really great thing to sort of use at very strategic times. Is that kind of where you were going with that, Kayla?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I enjoy the sniffing part of taking them for walks. And people are like, oh, we just need to go for a power walk to wear my dog out. But sniffing is very enriching and wears them out faster than a power walk. So
Yes, and I won't spend too much time on this because I could give a whole TED talk on the idea of physical exercise, but I do want to remind people that dogs don't have calorie goals that they want to meet. They're not looking to count steps. They wouldn't have a gym membership. If they were just out on their own, they'd really only move their body unless there was a good reason, a goal to achieve. You know, herding these sheep, chasing that squirrel, tunneling, through to get the rat out of the way. And so just going on a steady pace walk is, to me, that feels like, walking on a treadmill. It's just miserable. I would much rather put a soccer ball in front of me, then I'll run for 90 minutes straight. And your dog wants that too. So physical exercise should really have sort of a game to it, something that makes them feel like a dog again.
all right, so I guess we're ready to move on then to crates and gates. For me, so crates are wonderful tools. Sometimes they can be overused, but they're great to use for your dog for potty training, for one. Keeping your dog safe as well as keeping your stuff safe. Crates are great containment. Don't ever feel bad about putting your dog in a crate unless he's in there 24/7. Like obviously he's got to come out of there from time to time. But it's also a great place for them to actually shut down and take a nap if they're ready to. The thing about crates is also you need to pick the right crate for your dog. You don't want one that's too big, especially for potty training. If they can go potty on one side and sleep on the other, then crate training for potty purposes are not going to help at all. But also you don't want it to be too small, where he feels all hunched over and crowded in that crate. It needs to be big enough for him to go in, turn around and lay down and be comfortable, but not excess room and not too tight. There's several different kinds of crates. You have wire crates, which are the most common. You can get those with both dividers. So let's say you have a dog that's going to be huge and you want to get a big crate because you don't want to keep buying crates as he grows. So you'd get a bigger one that has a divider in the middle of it. So now you have him in one side of it. And as he grows, you take the divider out and now he has the whole crate. And then of course they do have crates that the wire crates that don't have dividers either. So if you've got a small dog like a Chihuahua that's not going to really outgrow that small crate, then it's not a problem to have a small crate. Then, of course, there's plastic crates like the airline crates, so they're nice and cozy. So a dog that may injure himself on a wire crate because he's trying to get out, that can be a little bit safer for them, a plastic crate. Then you upgrade from that even to an impact crate, which is basically a dog safe. It helps keep them safe when they have severe separation anxiety, but I'm not going to go into that. And then we have things like camping crates, which are very portable. You can take with them anywhere you go. There's other than a crate, you have other ways to contain your dog, like baby gates or X pens, also known as exercise pens. If you can't actively keep an eye on your dog, but you don't want him back in the crate, you can have him contained in a room or in an X pen in your living room while you're cooking dinner, so that you're not having your stuff being torn up while you're doing that. The biggest thing is, though, whether or not you decide to use a crate, I think that every dog should be crate trained for vet stays. If they have to go to the vet because they're injured, the vet's going to put them in a crate, and it should be being crate trained is going to make it a lot easier on the vet staff for sure. Same thing at a groomer. If you're taking your dog to a groomer on regular, a lot of them will, put them in the crate in between while they're working on another dog. And also in case of an emergency. So if there's a emergency that happens where you have to evacuate and you have to go to a shelter, then your shelter is not generally going to let you bring your dog in there without some form of containment like a crate. So that's all I got to say about that.
That's great. I'm glad you remembered to add in crates and gates. I think that's so important. And since you brought up grooming, Kayla is going to talk to us about what you should know about grooming your
Yeah,
dog.
so first let's talk about the most important thing to remember with grooming, and that is that it's wellness and it's not vanity, and that every single dog needs grooming. Not not depending on the coat type, every single dog needs it, and how much is going to depend on the coat you choose. And so the first thing you want to do when you're choosing a breed is you want to look at the coat type and ask yourself, can I realistically maintain this? So, we've got curly coats, drop coats, wiry coats, double coats, and they all have different needs. And a doodle doesn't groom like a schnauzer, and a schnauzer doesn't groom like a short haired dog. And so when you choose a coat, you're choosing the grooming lifestyle that comes with it. And that comes with time, cost, and at home brushing commitments too. And that's where we get in grooming intensity, and that it really matters. And most dogs, most all dogs actually need a bath and a nail trim every few weeks. Others need full grooming every 4 to 6 weeks and for their entire life. And so planning ahead helps prevent mats, skin issues, overgrown nails, ear infections. And those are things that we can catch early because we're seeing your dog regularly, typically more regularly than a vet or a trainer, or anybody else within that circle. Did anybody want to add anything to that?
How often should we be setting up appointments? Like, how far in advance should we set up appointments for
So
our
I
dogs?
would say typically, just depending on the groomer, usually about a month or two in advance is perfect. That gives you enough notice to, get your dog on a regular schedule with that groomer, work into the schedule before, it's something that you desperately need for the dog. So the earlier, the better. I would even say, before you're bringing home a puppy, taking that time, looking for a groomer, looking for a vet, and making those appointments early before you even get the dog, just so you know that that's one less thing that you have to worry about in that transition of owning or bringing home a new puppy.
When
That's
someone
great. I
is
think
looking for a
it's really
groomer, is there anything that they should be looking for specifically in terms of, like I don't know if it's a regulated field or not. Should they be looking for certain credentials? What would you say?
So dog grooming is completely unregulated, and we'll include in the resource sheet after. I have a few tips on how to look for a groomer in this unregulated industry. So anybody anywhere can pick up shears and call themselves a dog groomer, but we want to know that we're taking our dogs to someone that we can trust, that is knowledgeable, that's going to care for our dog properly. And so I'll provide a resource for that because it's a lot of information to take in, especially, there's so many groomers everywhere. It's what are we looking for? What do we need? And it boils down to your budget, what you're looking for in a groomer, how often you're looking to bring them. There's quite a few things that go into it, but I did want to talk about the first experience for grooming because that is something that I have seen brought up very often. I'm getting a lot of puppy request clients. A lot of them are younger, 4 months old, 5 months old. It's really, really, really important to start your puppy as early as possible. And I'm saying 6 to 8 weeks. I'm saying, those first couple months of bringing them home, because it's about the experience, not the perfection. Puppies aren't born knowing how to be groomed. We have to teach them. And so the goal is to get them off on a positive start as quickly as possible, before those fear stages set in. And so they grow up so they can be confident and safe on the table.
I love that. I think it's also really great that you see that every dog is a groomed dog, even if it's just nails and a bath every few weeks.
Yeah.
I think everybody feels better with that happening if it's not a
I
traditionally
mean,
groomed
yeah,
dog. I
yeah.
think it's
I mean,
cool.
grooming is wellness, not vanity. That's the number one thing to remember.
Yeah.
It's going to be a lifelong relationship. Your groomer and you are going to be with you throughout your dog's entire life, and it keeps your dog comfortable, it keeps them healthy, it keeps them safe. And as they age, we forget that their coats change, and with the coat change comes health changes. And in order to adjust, we have to have someone like a groomer on our team that becomes part of the wellness of your dog.
Oh, absolutely.
That's great.
Yeah. And also their nails grow
I
differently
have,
when they get old too.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. They start to grow quicker, they
yeah.
get longer, which also nails growing longer affects how they move. It can bring on early onset arthritis. And so it's really important to maintain that thought that grooming is wellness and not vanity.
And when it comes to
Kayla,
grooming
would
at
you say
home,
one more thing?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to ask about
Go ahead,
grooming at
Lisa.
home, if there'll be some resources provided about, what to buy for that.
Oh, yes, definitely. I will provide, that's what I'm trying to do is provide all the resources that every owner needs. Not even just bringing home a new puppy. Let's say you have a dog that you've never gotten groomed and you've had them for years. These will be the resources that set you up with the tools you need at home, what you need to know when you're taking them to the groomer, how to choose one, how to do these things at home if you choose to do that. Because, whether you do go to a groomer or not, these things are very important. And you have to think about when you're choosing a dog, you're choosing a grooming plan for the next 10 to 15 years. And so it's really important that comfort and stress-free grooming are at the forefront of that.
Thank you.
Hey, Kayla, for the Waco market, can you give a little bit of a range on what the average cost for a grooming visit might be, from a basic bath visit
Yeah.
to maybe a full groom on a large dog?
Yeah, of course. So, in the market, I would say, like I mentioned before, it's a completely unregulated industry, and so we have people of all backgrounds becoming groomers and pricing their services as such. And so you can go for your cheaper range of around, some people offer memberships of about starting like $30, $40 to get just a basic bath, nail trim, things like that, all the way ranging to 60, 70, $80. And it's just really about finding what's in your budget, finding what you're comfortable with, but making sure you have someone on your team that is ready to be there for you and your dog.
A grooming class,
Yeah.
actually. We
There's no class in school on how to care for a dog properly. And so, what better way to educate than right now?
Thank you. Thank you for joining
Of
us.
course. Yes, of course. It was lovely. Well, I'm going to head out, you guys. Thank you for having me.
Have a good
thank you. Bye,
afternoon.
Kayla.
Bye, you guys. Thank you.
Bye.
And so, Carrie, it looks like the next part on that is shots and the shot intervals
Yep.
as far as puppies go.
Yeah, I'll pick that up. All right, so for veterinary visits for an adult dog, if you don't have vaccine history, you're going to assume that they've not had anything. It's not going to hurt to go ahead and vaccinate them. If they are not yet heartworm tested to find out if they have heartworm disease, that will be done upon the first vet visit. A microchip is a great idea. It's like a permanent ID tag that is standard, very important. So that would probably be done if it's not already. And then, of course, the spay or neuter and getting them on some sort of flea and tick and heartworm medication prevention. As far as scheduling appointments ahead of time, typically you're going to want to establish a relationship with that either full service veterinarian or a community clinic like ABC. I would suggest making that appointment in advance of getting your dog, because typically that's going to be, maybe a month, sometimes a little bit more, to make sure that you get the date that you want. You should have them visit the vet in the first week that you get them. And then adult dogs will typically have 2 boosters of that Decipher Parvo combo, as well as their rabies vaccination. And then puppies will have 3-week intervals of boosters until they meet or pass 16 weeks of age. So you're going to be going to the veterinarian in the first few months a lot. And so that's a great time for some socialization as well. ABC does have a puppy package that a lot of people really love and take advantage of. It is all of their first essentials for those first few months. It's the vaccine boosters, the chip, the rabies vaccination, spay and neuter, and a first dose of heartworm and flea meds. So plan that ahead if it's a puppy, and we do have packages for adult dogs too. Do you have
Carrie,
anything?
how young is too young to get a microchip?
There is not a minimum age. In fact, at a lot of our vaccine clinics and at the clinic, people will bring in even pediatric puppies and kittens, and we will do them on them as well. It goes underneath the skin. It doesn't go, in the muscle or anything. So it's just a poke in the skin. And actually, because of the vaccine serums, the difference there between giving a microchip and the vaccine serum, sometimes those serums will have a little burn to them. And so they might, flinch or yelp. They typically don't as often, even rarely with a microchip. So it's fine if you do it at the time of spay neuter while they're under for anesthesia on the recovery table, but there's no need to wait for that.
Okay. Also, how young should your dog be spayed or neutered?
Oh, thank you for asking. Ideally, we love to see it happen between the 4-month birthday and the 5th-month birthday. That's males, females, smaller dogs, larger dogs. The one exception might be for a giant breed dog. You might talk to your veterinarian about getting just a little bit longer on that. But yeah, we love to see it done younger. They recover faster, their tissues are healing faster, and you get them before that first heat cycle or before the hormones kick in, where the males start to lift their leg and pee on things. And that's always good to do.
That's fair. I was always against getting a boy dog for that reason.
And I also want to touch just a little bit on local ordinances. If you are local to McLennan County, know that most McLennan County cities have a mirror ordinance related to microchipping and spay neuter, and it is required. And there are a few exceptions that are allowed within that, but for the average pet and pet owner, it is a requirement. So make sure that you check up on that. And for that geographic area, if you are a pet owner that would like some financial assistance with that, at this time in 2025, there is funding available to assist through ABC.
Good to know. And there's something in here about fear-free pets, Carrie?
Oh, sure. And I can, you know what? Can we talk about that under the training part?
Yes.
Is that okay?
Mhm.
Okay, cool. Let's do that.
I actually had a question about vet visits with puppies, and it kind of transitions nicely into the next topic about come with the first time they come home and acclimating and what socialization is. A lot of breeders will require of their clients to have the puppy seen by a veterinarian within, I think, 24 to 48 hours after the puppy comes home. And often this is something that I get a little worried about because that can be kind of a lot to throw at a puppy, especially where they are in that sort of sensitive period for socialization. What is sort of the vet side of that? How soon do you want to see a puppy? And what types of things could maybe wait such that maybe that first visit could be a little more low key getting to know you?
Mm-hmm. Even if they come in for a deworming, if they're super, super young, I think that's fine. If it's a general dewormer, most veterinarians use one that most dogs find yummy. So I would say that's a good thing.
Okay.
Yeah, we wouldn't even have to give a vaccine on that first visit if you just elected to come back in a week and do that. That's fine. We do recommend that you start the vaccines about a week after the puppy separates from its mother is ideal. We don't know where they are on that titer scale, so it's good to go ahead and get that in there. And when you bring them into the veterinary clinic or anywhere at that time, just kind of we want the socialization to happen, but a vet clinic, especially a full service vet clinic, you wouldn't want them on the ground, either in the parking lot or inside. At our clinic, we don't treat sick animals, so the risk there is pretty minimal. but at a full service clinic where they do treat sick animals, the risk is a little bit higher. So just keep them in your arms or in the kennel.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
It's fair.
Sure.
All right. So should we talk about the welcome home process?
Yes.
Okay. So let's say you've got your dog, puppy, whatever age it is. I think this information really applies across the board. That welcome home process, it can be very daunting. It can be very overwhelming for the people, especially, but for the dog, I mean, they're really entering an environment they haven't been in before, maybe separated from the people that they knew at the rescue, or the dogs that they played with at the shelter, or their litter mates from the breeder. And so, for the dog's point of view, it's really kind of like going to college for the first time, or moving to a new country, or like a newborn baby entering the world brand new. And so, often when it comes to puppies, we often talk about the concept of socialization. And that's one term that I think has gotten really misunderstood. And part of that comes from the fact that unfortunately the word social and socialize is in it. And so it's kind of a misnomer. So when I talk about how to make this transition into your home easier for your dog and less overwhelming, I want you to think of it more as acclimation, sort of acclimating to what life is going to be like in your home, in your neighborhood, with your lifestyle and your household members and your routines and all of that. With puppies, we use the term socialization because it actually just refers to this very special, beautiful period that lasts until about 14 weeks of age, where their brains are these fantastic little sponges that really just want to make lots of opinions about the world. And so that's where we come back to the fact that socialization is not actually have anything to do with making your dog a social butterfly. Introverted dogs can be very well socialized. That's just their preference. Instead, it's actually about trying to make them very neutral or even just optimistic about the world. We want to teach them that new things happen in the world every day, and that there are things about the human world that are just their brain is not built for as a canine. And so we want them to be more likely to be optimistic when they encounter things in their adult life rather than immediately suspicious. And that's what really the difference is once that 14 weeks passes for your dog's brain. If you're interested in learning more about kind of what all goes on in the puppy brain, there is a book called Puppy Brain, and it is one of my favorites of all time. Really, really easily digestible for anyone. But after that 14 weeks, it's not like that's it. Your dog is set in stone. We can't ever change their mind about things again. It's just that it's harder. And now their brain is shifting more towards needing to be careful and more likely to be suspicious of things. And so we're not looking for a dog that necessarily loves everyone and everything, because that can be a little overwhelming as well. We don't want a dog that's terrified of everything either. We kind of want a dog that's just neutral. We want them to be able to see the UPS man and say, no big deal. We want them to be able to see neighbor Bob and go, no big deal. We want them to see the school bus go by and say, no big deal. We want the first time that it snows for their paws to touch the ground and go, that's different, but no big deal. And so that's really what the concept of socialization is all about. So with that in mind, I want you to think about the welcome home process as sort of 3 tiers, like in a video game, 3 levels, if you will. And for the first few days, I want you to keep their world kind of small. They're getting to know their new home. if you moved to an entirely different country, you'd probably hang out in your hotel or your new apartment, get things kind of put away at first. You're not going to immediately go jet setting on a trip. We really just want to kind of get to know their immediate surroundings, all the sounds that come from your home, all the textures. Oh my gosh, there's stairs here now. There's people. Let them just get used to this new place that eventually is supposed to become their safe space. Once after a few weeks, they've had a chance to just kind of get used to it, then we stretch it. Then we go to the next level of the video game and we start letting them encounter things in their surrounding neighborhood. That's where we bring in the people who are outside of the immediate household members, have them come over. It's really tempting to have everyone just come over for a big puppy party immediately, but that can actually really backfire and end up having the opposite effect of what we want from socialization acclimation. It can actually make your puppy really put off by people coming over the house, or overly excited to the point of frustration by people coming over to the house, or dogs or whatever. This is not a quantity type of mission. This is not a checklist. This is quality experiences, almost like you are trying to give them a movie trailer for the life that they will have as an adult dog. Oh, hey, here's a little teaser of what life will be like as you grow older. Just enough for them to know what's coming, but not get so much information that they say, oh, I don't want to see that movie, or I've seen the whole movie in the trailer. So think of it that way. Once they've kind of gotten used to their neighborhood, the people who might visit most frequently, their groomer, their veterinarian, then that's when you can start, exploring other areas. If camping is something that you like to do in your lifetime, or you want to be able to go on long car trips with your dog or kayak with them on the Brazos, then these are the types of things that then you expand to at that point. That's sort of the graduate school level version of socialization. But we have to create a very acclimated, safe space at home first for any of that to be absorbed by them. And when it comes down to the nitty-gritty of how you do this, I'm just going to say that it really ends up being more of a passive neutral experience. You really just kind of want them to sit and watch what's going on. There's no need for direct interaction. If your puppy or your dog is willing to just watch the school bus go by and maybe have some treats, sniff the ground, play a little, those are really, really good signs that they're taking in that information in a good way. And so there's no need to sort of get, every baby to meet your dog. It's not about the interaction. It's just about a very low level exposure where the dog has a chance to take it in and choose how much they want to interact with it. Any questions?
So Lisa,
I wish I had known all
so
of
how do
that
you-
ahead of time. That's great.
How do you socialize a dog who hasn't had all of its vaccinations yet?
Yes, thank you. Okay. So I am a really big fan of utilizing all the same things that you might use for a newborn baby. So get yourself a baby carrier, a sling, honestly, even a big hoodie. You can get, like a little backpack. I've used a wagon before, which is so cute. You can put there, I have a little puppy stroller, which is great. And again, these things not only help prevent them interacting with physical surfaces that might have disease or even just get them dirty and gross and whatnot, it also kind of protects your puppy from being overly exposed to something. If they're in a puppy stroller or they're on your body or they're in a wagon, it's a lot less likely that a kid can just run up and kind of spoil all the socialization that you've been doing. Because here's the real deal. Everyone's going to want to touch your puppy. Everyone's going to, think that it's sort of a community property, and it's not. And so it is totally okay to say, sorry, we're training, or we're trying to get good at ignoring people. So the same things that I would use to prevent disease, I would also use are also beneficial for that reason as well. And I just want to close it out by saying that just like vaccinations are sort of a insurance against getting physical illnesses, socialization and acclimation in general is your dog's vaccine against emotional illness and just having their behavioral wellness set up for success.
Good stuff. Thank you, Lisa.
So that
Yeah.
kind of brings us into house training now. Of course, when you first bring your puppy home, it's peeing all over the house, it's doing all the things. But the biggest thing about house training is realizing your puppy's potty schedule. So you need to understand that a dog can only reasonably hold it for the amount of hours that it is months old. So let's say you brought home a dog at 6 months old, it can reasonably hold it for about 6 hours. Now that lengthens if it's sleeping, and that shortens if they're doing anything else. So if they're playing for 20 or 30 minutes, you're probably going to want to take them out more often. The best way to figure out your dog's potty schedule is to actually write it down. So get a log and write down, okay, we ate at 6 o'clock this morning, at 6:10 they had to go. So that way you can kind of understand, oh, it's 10 minutes after they eat, they're going to have to go, or it's 30 minutes after they eat that they have to go. Also, keeping in mind that dogs will poop one more time than they eat every day. So if you're feeding them twice a day, they should be pooping 3 times a day. I'm a proponent for, especially for puppies, for doing meals as opposed to free feeding, because if you free feed, you don't know how many meals they ate that day. So you don't have a way to tell when they have to go potty. So it just kind of helps you check, okay, we ate dinner at this time. And keeping in mind too, that if you're training and you're using a lot of treats, those treats can sometimes count as another meal. So your dog may be pooping one more time than you thought they should, because you're feeding them more. I would say the biggest part of potty training is that if you catch them going in the house, we don't want to punish them. We don't want to, rub their nose in it like we were taught many, many years ago, or yell at them, all the things that we used to do, because they don't associate them going potty with the punishment. They associate you catching them. So that's when you have them running off and hiding behind the couch to take a poop. and then you're like, well, now you can't fix that because you can't catch them in the act. So what you do when you catch them in the act is you take them out immediately. If they just finished, great. If they're mid-pee, take them out. So you might have a mess to clean up from where they went to the door, but taking them out immediately tells them here, not here. And so that makes more sense. If you happen to catch it and you didn't catch them go potty, didn't catch them in the act, just clean it up and move on. Also making sure that what you do clean it up with matters. Use an enzymatic cleaner. Don't use anything that has bleach in it, because the bleach leaves back that ammonia smell that tells them, hey, that's where I'm supposed to go. So if you use like Nature's Miracle is a good enzymatic cleaner that I use, that gets rid of that smell, so they don't have to, they're not going to go in the same spot again, usually. I do have a potty training protocol that I will include in the references resource sheet for that. So any questions on potty training?
Kim, will you just clarify why you need a very specific type of cleaner? Like, what does it do?
So when you clean it with an enzymatic cleaner, you're getting rid of all of the smell, because dogs' noses are amazing and they can smell where they've gone before. That soaks into your carpet, that soaks into your rug, and the ammonia smell that it leaves behind, they're going to pick that up as a place where they're supposed to go.
Yeah.
I have a dog right now that she pees in the same spot in the grass every time she goes out and pees. I'm obviously not cleaning it up there, but
Yeah.
She's picking that same spot because that's where she always goes. If you clean it up, and you can use a black light too, to see where you missed with the enzymatic cleaner. The bleach is going to show up on your black light. So you're basically just smearing it all over, and they don't know where not to go. So.
Okay, so next we're going to talk about training and consistency throughout life. Kim, can you
Yeah.
talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so consistency is key. Consistency actually is a better trainer than you are, to be honest, than I am. If you're very consistent with things, they're going to learn pretty fast. Probably the biggest way to be consistent is making sure that everybody in the family is on the same page. So even before you get the dog, or even right after you get the dog, sit down with the family and, make a plan. Who's going to feed them? This is how we're going to feed them. What words are we going to use for training? Are we going to use stay, or are we going to use wait? Are we going to use down, or are we going to use lay? And that way everybody's on the same page. What are the rules in the house? Is the dog going to be allowed on the furniture? Because maybe for dad it is, but mom it's not. Let's make the rules before we even get the dog, so that we're not confusing them. It is okay for the rules. Again, furniture, I like to use that as an example. Maybe your dog's only allowed on the furniture when they're invited. That's okay. They can be not allowed on the furniture when you have guests over, because they're not invited up on the furniture, but they can be allowed on the furniture when you invite them up to snuggle with them while you're watching a movie. That's great. Routine is another way to be consistent. A lot of people think of their routine as I get up at 6 o'clock every day. No, routine is not necessarily time-based. It's based on what you're doing, right? So when I get up in the morning, the dogs all go out, they go potty, they come in and get their breakfast. That could be at 4 o'clock in the morning, or that could be at 7 o'clock in the morning. It really depends on what time I get out of bed. My routine when I leave the house is just the same, and I leave the house several times a day. And it's the same. I, do a head count, make sure everybody comes in, grab my keys, grab my drink, and I head out the door. I don't make a huge deal about it, but they know, oh, they need to be in, they need to be, this is where we go before mom leaves. And as soon as I come home, same thing. I put all my stuff down, everybody goes out. Even if I've only been gone 5 minutes, it's the same routine when I leave. And as far as routine goes, we're fixing to head into the holidays, which is the most non-routine time of year. So please keep in mind that when things are not routine, dogs are going to be acting out. Oh my gosh, they unwrapped all the presents under the Christmas tree. Well, there's not usually a Christmas tree there. So, kind of understand that, okay, there's a reason that they're acting out, and it's because things aren't normal. So, and then as far as training goes, or any sort of training, obviously you can hire a trainer, but there's a lot of good online resources as well, for those who maybe don't feel like they can afford a trainer right now. I'm gonna of course do a little bit of self-promotion here. My website, I have video blog articles that you can go there and you can say, what am I looking for? How do I teach my dog how to recall? I've got some stuff in there about that. So by all means, you can certainly go to my video blog page on my website, and it's free for anybody. So that will also be in the resources. Another good one on YouTube that I like is Kiko Pup. That's KIKOPUP. She does some pretty great training videos on her YouTube channel. Another good resource is the Do No Harm training. They have a Facebook group, which is amazing. You can get on there, ask questions, and people are going to tell you some good force-free training options for you, and getting the book. The book is on Amazon. You can buy it. It's a pretty good book. You can get it in both as paperback as well as Amazon Kindle to read there. I have it both so that I can refer to it anytime. And it's wonderful. You don't have to read it like a book from cover to cover. If you're looking for something specific, you go in there and say, we've got this issue. What do I do about it? and you can look at it and it can give you some good pointers to get started. So another great resource, and I can't not mention this here, is the Animal Coalition website. Since we're doing this for the coalition, we have a Facebook page as well as the website, which is wacoanimalguide.com. Got a list of trainers on there. Pick the trainer that fits your standards, like, you know, someone that agrees with the way you want to work with your dog. There are certain trainers that do hold in-person group classes. I do, Molly's Dog Place does, and Canine Mutt Training does as well. And, you know, training has changed over the years. It used to be that you got a dog and you took them to PetSmart and did their little training class. Trainers come to your home now too. So if you want that in-person training for trainers to come to your home, especially when your dog isn't quite fully vaccinated, because maybe you don't want to take them to PetSmart for their training, or, you know, bring them here to my place for my training course. I come to people's homes. I know Lisa comes to people's homes. So those are definitely some good resources for training once you have your puppy or your dog in your home. So, Lisa, I think there's some red flags you wanted to cover as far as that's concerned as well.
Yes, and actually, I have kind of a good transition from what you were talking related to red flags, because I'm about to talk about, you know, behaviors and things you see in your new dog that might warrant kind of a quicker call to some support. But I also just want, because Kayla mentioned it earlier, I'm going to put it out there as well, that again, the dog training industry is unregulated, and anyone can just make a website, say they're a dog trainer, and take your money and interact with your dog. And so you should be very careful about that, and very take good consideration for sort of, all right, ask them, like, what's their process? How do they respond to you know, your dog's behavior? Ask them specifically, what are they going to do? How are they going to do it? This is something that I go over with every client before they pay me for a training program. I very much want them to be in the right mindset and be on board before we go down that road. So just beware, buyer beware. And that kind of goes for a lot of the things we talk about today, grooming, dog trainers, breeders are not regulated. And so, yeah, just something to be aware of. Now, when it comes to training concerns that people often have, really across the board, you know, if you're having any sort of struggle with your new dog, or even just something that's kind of a habit that's going away that you don't want to live with, doesn't have to be super, you know, scary. It's always good to reach out early on, because the more chances your dog gets to practice that behavior and rehearse it, the more it becomes an entrenched habit that they're almost not even thinking about anymore. And so it's then harder to you know, kind of undo that and replace it with a new habit. But there are certain things that you should reach for, sort of more of a 911, let me find a trainer sooner rather than later. And those are going to really be, I put it in the big category of big feelings. Okay. Anything that's happening that's involving a big reaction from your dog, and I don't just mean loud or, you know, scary, but anything just that feels like they are having a really hard time, which, albeit, can often actually feel like they're giving you a really hard time. So just kind of be mindful of that. But anything that feels like it's an unsafe interaction in the home, or if they seem to be extremely stressed out by being home alone or being separated for you, or really stressed out by certain things that are happening in their environment. You know, I used to live over by Waco Airport, and if my dog was extremely stressed out by the sounds of airplanes all the time, the more invasive and frequent and severe these experiences are, those are really the things that I would say warrant a quicker reaching out for an expert to help you with that, because they will, yeah, definitely get more entrenched over time, and your dog's having a really hard time. So we definitely want to get them some relief really quickly. So yeah, anything that's involving safety or just really intense responses to something, that's going to be the time to take an action. I also really strongly recommend that you loop your veterinarian in with any of that. Maybe even reach out to them and ask them for a referral to a trainer that they know locally that they feel comfortable with. And the reason I say that is because a lot of these big complex reactions can be caused by underlying physical ailments. Often aggression and aggressive behavior is often an early sign of pain that your dog is actually feeling. So really important to loop in the veterinarian, who's sort of your primary care physician, and then the trainer, that's going to be sort of the psychologist for the dog. And then I'll just throw it out there because most people don't know about it. There's sort of a third tier, and it's kind of the melding. It's almost the psychiatrist, a little bit of an MD, a little bit of a PhD, and that's going to be called a vet behaviorist. And they're just going to be a little deeper into the knowledge of both areas. But yeah, there's lots of helpful resources online. Kim was outlining them. I won't repeat any of those. But the internet is still a dangerous place for information. So just beware of that. But what I will say is that I will be including in the resource sheet webinars or blog articles that I trust that I can give to someone when they're in immediate crisis to help them start sort of taking action and getting things under control while they wait the days or weeks before they can actually maybe see their vet or see a trainer. That's often the time when things are the most tumultuous. So just keep an eye out for that in the resources, that there's various things that can help you in the immediate time so that you don't make a rush decision of like, let me just grab the first trainer I find. So.
Sure.
Great. Thanks, Lisa. So next, we're going to move on to kind of how do you determine where your family or yourself is on the spectrum of choosing a dog based on personality, instinct, appearance, a lot of those different things. So we're going to talk about size, behaviors, and then extra support if necessary. So when choosing the size of dog, keep in mind the larger dogs, especially the giant breeds, will have a much shorter lifespan than some of the smaller breeds going on down. And then, keep in mind too, if you want a giant dog, sometimes they will need a boost here and there, and sometimes they might even need to be carried. So make sure that you are either physically able to do that or you have a plan for that to happen. And your space where you live is another consideration. Size doesn't necessarily equate to space. So if you happen to be in a smaller space, you can absolutely have a larger dog, but you just need to make some plans for that. Make sure that there's space for a larger kennel or longer walks or yard space, that kind of thing. So just kind of keep some of those things in mind. It's not necessarily a prohibitive, but it can help. You have anything to add to that before we go on to instinct and behaviors, Lisa?
No, I think that was all very well put. I like what you touched on about how the size of your space doesn't necessarily have to correlate with the size of your dog, because I've known many Great Danes that are just couch potatoes and would cope very well in an apartment, and many small dogs that find all of that small city life very overstimulating. So thank you for touching on that. But yeah, I'd love to talk about thinking about sort of what flavor of dog do you think is going to be right for you and your home and your lifestyle? And this is a big commitment. I mean, it's, dogs often live longer than many marriages. So it's important that you consider this roommate, this family member that you are adding, and look for one that you feel like you're going to have the best time with. Don't get me wrong, I love very certain types of breeds. I'm very attracted to tricolor dogs, and I love all of it. But at the same time, I have really started to learn that certain dogs and dog breeds or just sort of personality types probably wouldn't get along as easy as others. And it's as much in their best interest as it is ours to have a great roommate for the next 10 to 15 years. The reason why we bring up breed is because of the way that we have, genetically modified dogs over the past 20,000 years. Most of that was done on their own, but in, the last few hundred years, we got a lot more involved. And we kind of made them into these uh, breeds that are really proficient in certain things. Do you want a dog that is fantastic at barking at any sound that happens? Get a German Shepherd. Do you want a dog that could dig a hole straight through your carpet? Get a Dachshund. And so I like to think of them all as sort of Olympians or experts in their field. And for some people, that's going to feel like a huge nuisance. And for others, they're going to think that it's the cutest, adorable little quirk and idiosyncrasy. So very much like if you're looking for, a romantic partner in your life, try to think of what your sort of eHarmony profile would look like. What hours do you keep? What types of activities do you want to be doing in your life? Do you travel a lot? Do you host a lot? Are you someone who really loves to cuddle and touch? In the dog world, we call those Velcro dogs. I'm a Velcro human. And unfortunately, my dog does not like to cuddle. And I really feel like that is a need of my own that's not being met. Are you someone who does not want your dog to follow you around and shadow you? These are all the little things that we want to sort of do a little bit of soul searching first and figure out like, what is my needs? What are my preferences? What are my pet peeves? And also anyone else in the household? What are any considerations that are sort of non-negotiables for you? Like, for example, if you live in a building that doesn't have an elevator, you're going to need a dog that can navigate stairs safely, and so it's lots of these little things that, especially if you are going down the sort of shelter or rescue route, you can almost make a little profile for yourself and then hand it over to the rescue, and then they can help find a match for who that is in their prospects of dogs. And a lot of times these things can also be sort of narrowed down by sort of breed, just because the way that we've bred dogs, we have turned them into those like genetic masters. And so it's more likely that they're going to engage in certain behaviors. Breed is not destiny, but genetics is very powerful. So it is one tool that we can use, and especially if you are going the breeder route as well, then that's going to be an area where you will kind of have to like narrow it down by breed, or even just like a breed specific rescue. My top resource that I can give you to sort of do this soul searching is to reference something that was put out there by canine ethologist Kim Brophy. She has a book called Meet Your Dog. It's one of my favorite books ever. And in the resources, I'm going to include links to 2-minute YouTube videos that she did that basically gives an eHarmony profile of what it would be like to live with certain breed groups. And you should really just watch each of them and think, first of all, if I was a dog, which one would I fit into? I am a human border collie. And if I wanted to live with one of these, dog groups, which sounds like the easiest to get along with for who I am. And it's just 2 minutes of your time across the different groups. And it can be a really great way to find that personality match and make sure that when it does come to things like training and grooming and all the other things that come with caring for a dog, you don't have to spin your wheels going through all of the things that are just mismatches between the two. And instead, you can start moving on to the fun stuff that you can train, like agility and, yeah, learning how to go on a kayak with your dog and stuff like that. It's always fun when we can get to the fun part of having a dog.
It's great
Sure.
stuff. Thank you.
So what happens then if you got a dog, you didn't do your research ahead of time, and now you're looking at it going, oh, what did I get myself into? I am not a husky person. I should never have got a husky. This dog is getting out of my fence. This dog is, eating my couch, whatever the case may be. There are definitely support out there for you if you it may have feel that very overwhelmed with the choice that you did make on your dog. And just because it may not be the right match, like Lisa said, it doesn't mean it can't be the right match. I mean, there's definitely, some resources out there like trainers. Like I say, definitely, research the trainers. Make sure that that you have a trainer that is working with that type of dog, or has experience with that type of dog, or if you got a dog that you found out, guess what, this dog is deaf, I have no idea how to communicate with it. Find a trainer that has, experience working with deaf dogs. And I mean, and there are a couple of us here in Waco that do that. Just like I say, do your research, make sure again that their values align with yours. Again, just because you have a dog that maybe didn't meet your needs. Oh my gosh, this Great Dane that I have is eating me out of house and home. I didn't realize they ate so much food. I can't afford that, right? The Coalition website has some great resources to help you keep your dog in your home where maybe you feel overwhelmed with things. They can certainly make things a lot easier. There is a list of pet food pantries in town. There are actually 5 of them in town. And that is listed on the Animal Coalition website. Suddenly you've been kicked out of your apartment and you've got to find another apartment that is dog friendly to bring your dog with you. We have a listing of pet friendly apartments as well. And then also, of course, they do have that list of local trainers here in Waco. So the biggest thing for, any sort of animal that you have that suddenly you realize that maybe this isn't exactly perfect, go to the Coalition website, and we'll definitely help you do the research. If you go to our Facebook page and you reach out to us privately in private message, we can certainly help guide you to maybe the right people who can at least have the information for you. So, big self promo for the Coalition there.
That's great. Yeah, there's so many resources in the community. So I can't imagine any one problem not being connected with some additional expert help.
Agreed. There's even, people out there that's going to help you fix your fence. If there's, again, you have a dog that's climbing your fence. Well, let's figure out a way to make him stop climbing your fence by fixing the fence somehow, and,
Yeah,
they'll do that.
that's great. Well, any last tips that you would like to add before we close things up?
The only tip I have is, is to do your research before you bring a dog home. If you're looking to get a dog, like we just talked about, pick the dog that is the right size for your what you want. Pick the dog that is the right breed for what you want. The grooming requirements for that breed. A lot of people get a doodle and don't realize they have to go get groomed every 4 weeks, and it's $100 every time you go or whatever it is. And you know, maybe I don't have that kind of money to spend $100 every time, every month to take my dog to the groomer. So maybe you would, you know, put that one off to the side and look at another dog. So definitely do your research for sure.
Lisa, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, I would just say that in my personal journey from being someone who did not grow up with a dog to an adult who had her first time dog and it was a baptism by fire to that leading me down the road to becoming a dog trainer, I basically realized that most of the stuff that we were taught or learned or heard or even repeated throughout our life about dogs was either a myth or a misconception. And so there's just a lot of information out there that that you can probably let go of. And even just expectations. I think a great example of this is just people thinking that if they don't walk their dog, they're a bad, dog owner or something like that. And I just want to put it out there that walking your dog in your neighborhood is not like the only way to go about it. Most dogs and most people don't end up having a great time doing that. And so one way that I sort of flip the script for my clients is just introducing them to the concept of going on a safari, which means driving 5 minutes away to somewhere that's a lot more nature, less people, and the dog has a way better time. So just because it's the way you've always seen it done, or that Instagram dog is able to do it, that doesn't mean that that's what it's supposed to be. So just kind of let go a lot of the expectations of like what it should look like or what your dog should do or not should do. Most of that is just not necessary.
That's great. Sounds like parenting
Yeah.
Kind of is actually.
coming from someone who's not a parent. Yeah. I think my little tip would be related to housing. If there's a housing change, we have some excellent resources um, on how to talk to a property owner if you're renting, how to advocate for your pet in very specific ways so that you can get into the housing that you choose with your pet. So reach out to us if you'd like that information. And very last thing, if you're about to make a move, make sure that your microchip chat data is updated before you move. Moves can allow for a dog to escape, and the finders need to be able to get a hold of you right away. And that's all I have for today. Did y'all have anything else?
There's
I
always
think we
more,
covered everything.
but I think that's a
Okay.
good start.
Okay. Well, thanks, everybody.
All
We will
right.
follow up with the resources.
Perfect.